Ladies and gentlemen, God lead doesn't mean giving up. It means gaining divine direction. Too often, people associate surrender with weakness. They think that if they stop fighting on their own, they're somehow failing, as if life is a battle they must win alone. But real strength isn't in how much you can carry by yourself. It's in knowing when to let go and trust a power greater than yourself. Think about the moments in life where you've tried to force things to happen. You push, you grind, you put in all the effort, yet the results don't seem to match the work. It feels like you're constantly running against the wind, like no matter how much energy you pour in, you're still falling short. That's what happens when you try to do everything in your own strength. You become exhausted, frustrated, and eventually burnt out. But what if you're not supposed to do it all alone? What if real power comes from knowing when to stop striving and start trusting? Imagine driving in an unfamiliar city with no GPS, no map, and no guidance. You keep taking turns, hoping you'll eventually figure it out. But after hours of circling the same roads, you realize you're lost. That's how life feels when you refuse to let God lead. You're driving without direction, relying on your own limited perspective instead of the wisdom that sees the whole path. God's guidance is like a GPS for your life. He sees the obstacles ahead, the detours you need to take, and the fastest route to your destination. But here's the thing. The GPS only works if you listen. If you ignore the directions and take your own path, you end up lost again, frustrated that you're not getting where you want to be. It's not about giving up control. It's about trusting the one who has the perfect plan for you. The idea of surrendering to God doesn't mean you stop working hard, or that you just sit back and wait for things to happen. It means you shift your mindset from relying on your own strength to relying on His. It means understanding that your power is limited, but His is limitless. Think of a weightlifter trying to bench press a load that's too heavy. They push with all they have, but they reach a point where they can't lift it any further. Without a spotter, that weight can crush them. But with a spotter, they get just enough help to push through. God is your spotter in life. He doesn't take the weight away. He gives you the strength to lift what you never could on your own. So many people struggle in silence because they believe they have to be strong all the time. They think asking for help is weakness, that trusting God means they're not tough enough. But let's get one thing, straight real warriors know when to rely on something greater. A soldier doesn't go into battle alone. They have a team, a strategy, a commander who sees the bigger picture. Life is no different. When you let God be your guide, you're not fighting alone anymore. You have a leader, a protector, and a source of strength that never runs out. Some of the most successful, powerful people in history have understood this principle. They knew that their ability had a ceiling, but God's power had no limits. They worked hard, but they also prayed hard. They took action, but they also listened for divine direction. They weren't afraid to surrender because they knew that in surrender, they found true power. When you surrender to God's plan, you stop wasting energy on battles that aren't yours to fight. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop carrying burdens that were always meant to be placed in His hand. You free yourself from the anxiety of trying to control everything, and instead, you step into a life of confidence, knowing that every step is being guided by a force that never fails. Life is unpredictable. You can do everything right, and still, unexpected challenges will come your way. The difference between struggling and succeeding isn't about avoiding difficulties. It's about who's leading you through them. When you trust yourself alone, every obstacle feels overwhelming. When you trust God, every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. You start seeing setbacks as setups for something greater. You stop fearing the unknown because you know who's in control. People who rely only on themselves live in a constant state of stress. They wake up every day wondering if they're making the right choices, fearful of making mistakes, exhausted from trying to do everything on their own. But people who surrender to God wake up with a different energy. They still work hard, they still put in effort, but they move with peace. They know that even when things don't go according to their plan, they're still on the right path. They understand that setbacks aren't failures. They're just part of the journey. The truth is, no matter how strong, smart, or capable you are, you're not meant to do this alone. That's not how you... Fear is one of the most powerful forces that holds people back from reaching their full potential. It creeps in like a shadow, whispering doubts, making you question yourself, making you wonder if you're enough, if you're capable, if you're worthy. Fear tells you to play it safe, to stay in your comfort zone, to avoid risks, because failure might be just around the corner. But faith is the opposite of fear. Faith tells you to take the step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Faith tells you that even when you don't know how things will work out, they will, because God is in control. Think about how many times in your life fear has stopped you. How many moments have you held yourself back from speaking up, from taking action, from moving forward because of that tiny voice in your head that said, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? That voice is not from God. That voice is the weight that keeps you chained to the same spot, year after year, while life moves forward without you. Fear is the thief of opportunity, the killer of dreams, the barrier between who you are and who you're meant to be. But when faith takes over, fear loses its grip. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the process even when you don't see the full picture. It's easy to have faith when everything is going well, when the path is clear, when the resources are there, when success seems guaranteed. But real faith is built in the moments of uncertainty, in the storms, in the struggles, in the seasons where nothing seems to be going right. That's where faith is tested, and that's where it grows. When you put faith over fear, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop letting doubt control your steps. You stop needing every single detail to make sense before you move. There are people who wait their entire lives for the right time to chase their purpose. They wait until they have more money, until they have more experience, until they feel more confident. But the truth is, fear will always give you a reason to wait. It will always convince you that you need just a little more time, a little more certainty, a little more security. And while you're waiting, life is passing. Doors that were once open begin to close. Opportunities that were within reach start to slip away. You have to understand that fear never truly goes away. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is not the absence of fear, it's the presence of faith. Faith is what gives you the courage to move even when you're afraid. It's what allows you to step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that even if you can't see what's ahead, God already has it figured out. Faith is what pushes you past the limitations that fear tries to impose on you. It's what turns obstacles into stepping stones, setbacks into setups, and failures into lessons. Every time you choose faith over fear, you grow stronger. You build resilience. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever thought possible. Think about the people you admire, the ones who have achieved great things, the ones who have made an impact. Do you think they never felt fear? Of course they did. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They moved anyway. They trusted that even if they didn't have all the answers, they would figure it out along the way. They understood that faith isn't about seeing, it's about believing. When you put your faith in God, you're not just believing in yourself, you're believing in something greater than yourself. You're believing that there is a plan for your life, that every step you take is leading you somewhere meaningful, that even when you face difficulties, they are shaping you for what's ahead. Fear makes you doubt your abilities, but faith reminds you that God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Fear tells you that you're not ready, but faith tells you that God will equip you as you go. Fear tries to convince you that you're alone, but faith reminds you that you are never walking this journey by yourself. God is with you in every step, in every struggle, in every moment where you feel lost. When you let fear control your life, you live in hesitation. You overthink every decision, you analyze every possibility. You stay stuck in a loop of what-ifs that keep you paralyzed. But when you live by faith, you move with boldness. You take action. You understand that you don't need to know every detail in order to trust the process. Faith doesn't mean the journey will be easy, but it means you won't have to go through it alone. It means that even when challenges arise, you will have the strength to keep going because you know that God is working things out in ways you can't yet see. The enemy wants you to live in fear because he knows that a fearful person is an inactive person. A fearful person doesn't take risks, doesn't chase their dreams. Struggles feel heavier when carried alone. Life has a way of making you believe that you have to fight every battle by yourself, that showing vulnerability is a weakness, that asking for help is a sign of failure. Society glorifies independence, pushing the idea that real strength comes from handling everything on your own. But the truth is, isolation is one of the biggest traps that keep people stuck in cycles of pain, doubt, and frustration. You were never meant to go through life alone, and the more you try to do it all by yourself, the more exhausted you become. There are moments in life where the weight of your struggles feels unbearable. You wake up every day carrying burdens that no one else sees. You go through the motions, pretending everything is fine, while inside, you're battling fears, insecurities, and disappointments. You tell yourself to push through, to keep going, to hold it all together because you don't want to be seen as weak. But strength isn't about how much you can handle alone, it's about knowing when to lean on something greater than yourself. God never intended for you to struggle in silence. He never designed you to fight every battle on your own. From the beginning of time, He created people for connection, for community, for support. When you isolate yourself, you make life harder than it has to be. You allow stress to build up, you let fear take control, and you start believing the lie that no one understands what you're going through. But when you bring God into your struggles, everything shifts. The weight that once felt impossible to carry becomes lighter. The battles that seemed too overwhelming become manageable. The fear that kept you paralyzed starts to fade because you realize you're not in this alone. Imagine walking through a dark forest with no light, no map, and no guide. Every step is filled with uncertainty. You don't know where you're going, you don't know what's ahead, and every sound makes you anxious. That's what struggling alone feels like, wandering in the dark, hoping you'll eventually find your way. But when you let God lead, it's like having a flashlight in that darkness. The path doesn't suddenly become easy, but now you can see where you're going. Now you have direction. Now you have confidence that every step is taking you somewhere. One of the biggest reasons people struggle alone is pride. Pride tells you that you don't need help. It convinces you that asking for support is a sign of weakness. It makes you believe that you should be able to figure everything out on your own. But pride is the very thing that keeps people trapped in their struggles. It builds walls that separate them from the help they desperately need. It stops them from opening up, from seeking guidance, from surrendering their worries to God. And the longer they hold on to that pride, the heavier their burdens become. God isn't waiting for you to fix everything on your own. He's waiting for you to let Him in. He's waiting for you to surrender the weight you've been carrying for far too long. He's waiting for you to realize that you were never supposed to do this alone in the first place. The moment you release your struggles to Him, you'll experience a peace that doesn't make sense. You'll feel a strength that isn't coming from you, but from the one who created you. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Peter. One night, he saw Jesus walking on water and, with full faith, he stepped out of the boat to walk towards Him. For a moment, he was doing the impossible. But the second he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the storm around him, he started sinking. That's exactly what happens when you try to handle struggles alone. When you focus on the weight of your problems instead of trusting God to carry them, you start sinking. You feel overwhelmed, defeated, and hopeless. But the second you reach out, the second you call on Him, He lifts you back up. Struggling alone makes everything feel worse than it actually is. When you keep your problems to yourself, they grow bigger in your mind. Your fears seem more powerful. Your failures feel more permanent, and your doubts become louder. But when you bring them to God, perspective changes. The problems that once seemed impossible start to feel manageable. The burdens that felt unbearable become lighter. God doesn't promise that life will always be easy, but He does promise that you'll never have to go through it alone. Many people hesitate to lean on God because they think they have to have it all together before they come to Him. They believe they need to fix their mess, clean up their mistakes, and become better before they ask for help. But that's not how God works. He wants you as you are, messy, broken, struggling. He's not waiting for you to figure it all out. He's waiting for you to bring it all to Him. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to handle everything on your own. Think about when God leads your day, every challenge becomes part of your victory story. Too often, people wake up and immediately get consumed by stress, responsibilities, and distractions. They rush into their day without direction, reacting to problems as they come, feeling overwhelmed before they even get started. They live in survival mode, just trying to get through the day, hoping for things to go their way. But when you allow God to lead, you move with purpose. You don't just wake up and go through the motions. You wake up with confidence, knowing that every step you take is part of a bigger plan. Living with purpose doesn't mean life will be free from struggles. It doesn't mean every day will be easy or that things will always go smoothly. But it does mean that everything you face has meaning. The obstacles that come your way aren't random. They're part of your growth. The setbacks you experience aren't meant to stop you. They're meant to strengthen you. When you walk in alignment with God, even the difficulties have a purpose. You start to see challenges differently. Instead of seeing them as reasons to quit, you see them as opportunities to rise. Instead of feeling defeated, you feel determined. People who don't let God lead often feel lost. They go after success, money, validation, and approval, thinking those things will bring them fulfillment. They work hard, they chase goals, they achieve milestones, but something always feels missing. No matter how much they accomplish, they still feel empty. That's because purpose doesn't come from external success, it comes from alignment with God. When He is guiding your path, everything you do carries deeper meaning. The work you put in, the choices you make, the people you impact, it's all connected to something greater than yourself. You stop chasing things that don't fulfill you and start pursuing what truly matters. There's a different level of peace that comes when you know you're walking in God's plan. You don't have to stress about every decision, every outcome, every obstacle, because you trust that He is in control. It doesn't mean you stop working hard or making an effort, but it does mean you stop carrying unnecessary worry. You stop living in fear of failure, because you understand that even when things don't go your way, they are still working for your good. Think about how much time people spend worrying about things they can't control. They stress over the future. They replay past mistakes in their minds. They fear what might happen if things don't go according to plan. But when you let God lead, you stop living in that constant state of anxiety. You start focusing on what you can do today, trusting that He is taking care of the rest. That shift in mindset changes everything. It allows you to be present, to give your best effort without being weighed down by fear, to wake up each day with confidence instead of uncertainty. Every person has a unique purpose, but not everyone walks in it. Some people never step into their calling because they let distractions, excuses, or doubts hold them back. They wait for the right time to start, not realizing that the right time is now. When God leads your day, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop overthinking every step. You start moving in faith, knowing that you don't have to figure everything out before you take action. When you follow God's direction, you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take the next step. There will always be challenges along the way, but challenges are not meant to stop you, they are meant to prepare you. Every great story includes struggle. Every champion has faced adversity. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up isn't talent, luck, or circumstances, it's mindset. When you let God lead, you stop seeing challenges as barriers and start seeing them as part of the process. You recognize that every difficulty is shaping you, teaching you, and preparing you for what's ahead. Walking in purpose means understanding that even when things don't make sense, they are still working for your good. There will be times when you don't understand why certain things happen. There will be moments when you question the path you're on. But faith is trusting that even in the unknown, God is still in control. It's knowing that just because you can't see the full picture yet doesn't mean it's not coming together perfectly. Many people live with regret because they never stepped into their purpose. They let fear hold them back. They let the opinions of others stop them. They let comfort keep them from growth. But those who trust God's plan move differently. They take risks when He calls them to. They embrace challenges instead of avoiding them. They stay consistent, even when the results aren't immediate, because they know that faithfulness leads to fulfillment. When God leads your day, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop